The perfect deception. The golden halls of the Zephyrian Empire's military command had never witnessed such silence. Commander Thrakus stood before the War Council, his forearms trembling as holographic debris fields filled the space above them. What had been the most powerful invasion force in Galactic history now drifted as cosmic dust around a small blue planet that shouldn't have been able to defend itself against a single patrol ship. 18,000 warships, Thrakus whispered, his voice carrying across the crystalline chamber. The combined might of our empire, reduced to atoms in less than 6 hours. High Chancellor Viridian rose from her throne, her translucent wings catching the light of dying stars displayed on the tactical screens. This is impossible. Our intelligence division has monitored Earth for 400 cycles. They barely managed to reach their own moon with chemical rockets. The data streams flowed before them like rivers of light, each one representing decades of careful observation. Thrakus manipulated the holographic controls, bringing up surveillance records that stretched back to when humans first started broadcasting radio signals into space. Every piece of information had been cataloged, analyzed, and verified through multiple independent sources. Look at this, Thrakus said, highlighting a series of reports from their deep cover observation posts. Human cities growing at predictable rates, technology advancing along standard evolutionary curves, political divisions keeping them fragmented. Everything exactly as our models predicted for a pre-spaceflight civilization. Science advisor Kalara floated forward, her gaseous form shimmering with confusion. We tracked every satellite launch, every nuclear test, every technological breakthrough. Our agents lived among them for generations, sending back detailed reports. How could we have missed defensive capabilities of this magnitude? Thrakus began running comparative analyses, his military mind searching for patterns that his predecessors might have overlooked. The numbers appeared in the air around them, probability calculations that made less and less sense with each passing moment. Human development had matched their theoretical models with a precision that defied natural law. Chancellor, he said slowly, realization dawning like a cold sun. No species develops this perfectly along predicted paths. The statistical probability is 1 in 800 trillion. The implications crashed over the War Council like a tide. Viridian's wings stopped moving entirely, a sign of shock in her species. You're suggesting they knew we were watching? For 4 centuries? Not just knew, Thrakus corrected, pulling up anomaly reports that had been dismissed as sensor errors or statistical noise. They performed for us. Every advancement, every conflict, every supposed limitation was theater designed to make us see exactly what they wanted us to see. The archived intelligence reports took on new meaning under this lens. Small discrepancies that had been ignored now stood out like beacons. A power plant that occasionally produced energy signatures beyond its supposed capacity. Military exercises that demonstrated coordination too precise for their apparent communication technology. Manufacturing facilities that sometimes output materials with molecular structures more advanced than they should have been able to create. By the void, Kalara gasped, her form fluctuating rapidly. These anomalies appear in every report from every agent across every decade. They're not random. They form a pattern when viewed collectively. Thrakus accessed the invasion footage, the final transmissions from their doomed fleet. The attack had begun exactly as planned. Zephyrian ships had emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their shields powered by energy sources that could drain small stars. Earth's response had been precisely what they expected. Primitive rockets, nuclear weapons that couldn't even scratch their hull plating, panicked radio transmissions in dozens of languages for exactly 17 minutes. Then everything changed. The very fabric of space around Earth had shifted, revealing installations that hadn't existed moments before. Or rather, installations that had been hidden using technology the Zephyrian Empire hadn't known was possible. Energy readings spiked beyond anything in their databases. Weapons emerged from seemingly empty space, manipulating fundamental forces in ways their science said was theoretical at best. Watch this, Thrakus said, slowing down the footage to microsecond intervals. The moment our weapons fired, their defensive systems didn't just activate. They used our own energy discharges to power their response. They turned our attack into their ammunition. The destruction had been methodical, almost surgical. Not a single Zephyrian escape pod had been destroyed. But every weapon system, every engine, every communication array had been precisely eliminated. It wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration. There's more, Kalara announced, her gaseous form coalescing into a tighter shape as she processed incoming data. Our quantum sensors are detecting massive structures throughout the Sol system that weren't there yesterday, or rather that we couldn't see yesterday. The holographic display expanded to show Earth's entire star system, where once they had observed a handful of primitive space stations and basic satellites. Now there were cities floating at Lagrange points, massive industrial complexes in the asteroid belt, and energy collection arrays that surrounded Earth's sun like a partial shell. The infrastructure of a civilization that had surpassed the Zephyrian Empire's technology by centuries, perhaps millennia. How long? Viridian asked, though she feared the answer. How long have they been this advanced? Threkas cross-referenced the revealed structures with historical anomalies in their surveillance data, gravitational fluctuations that had been attributed to equipment malfunctions, energy signatures dismissed as solar flares, radio signals classified as cosmic background noise. Based on these patterns, he said, his voice heavy with the weight of the revelation, at minimum, 150 cycles, possibly longer. The War Council absorbed this in stunned silence, while they had been watching Earth, thinking themselves the predators studying prey. Humanity had been watching them in return. Every Zephyrian probe, every spy satellite, every deep cover agent had been observed, catalogued, and allowed to see exactly what humanity wanted them to see. They could have destroyed us at any time, Viridian realized. For over a century, they've had the power to annihilate our empire, and they chose to let us believe we were superior. Thrakis brought up the final piece of data, a transmission that had been broadcast on every frequency the moment the invasion fleet was neutralized. It was in perfect Zephyrian dialect, impossible for humans to have learned without decades of study. But now, everything impossible about humans needed to be reconsidered. The message was simple, delivered in a calm human voice that somehow conveyed both friendship and warning. We prefer peace. We prepare for war. We've been preparing for 400 years. This demonstration represents 1% of our defensive capabilities. We hope it will not be necessary to demonstrate further percentages. 1%, Kalara whispered, her form dispersing slightly in shock. They destroyed our entire fleet with 1% of their power. The tactical implications were staggering, but the psychological impact was worse. Every assumption about galactic power structures, every carefully maintained hierarchy of civilizations, every strategic alliance and military doctrine had been built on foundations of sand. Humanity hadn't just hidden their technology, they had hidden their very nature so completely that the galaxy's most advanced intelligence services had been fooled for centuries. Commander, a junior officer announced, his scales shifting to a pattern of extreme alarm. We're detecting hyperspace signatures throughout the Empire. Thousands of them. The main display shifted to show Zephyrian space, at the edge of every major system just outside weapon range but clearly visible to all sensors. Human vessels were appearing, not attacking, not advancing, simply arriving and waiting. The message was clear. We can reach you anywhere at any time and you never knew we could. Orders, Chancellor? Thrakis asked, though he knew the only rational response. Viridian's wings drooped in defeat. Send a message to Earth. The Zephyrian Empire formally requests dialogue. The truth unveiled. The analysis chamber deep within the Zephyrian military complex had become a shrine to humility. 3 days had passed since the failed invasion, and with each hour, new revelations about humanity's true nature emerged like layers being peeled from an infinite onion. Thrakis stood before a gathering of the Empire's greatest minds. Xenobiologists, military strategists, technology experts, and cultural analysts. All of them wore the same expression of stunned disbelief as they processed the data streams from Earth's system. The invasion itself was a test, strategic analyst Korvax announced, his chitinous form clicking with nervous energy. Look at the timing. Our fleet was disabled, not destroyed, exactly 6 hours after the attack began. 6 hours, 1/4 of Earth's rotational period. Every populated area had the chance to witness our defeat during their daylight hours. The implications were elegant in their psychological brilliance. Humanity had turned the invasion into a planetary event, a shared moment that unified their species, while demonstrating their power to the galaxy. It wasn't just military superiority, it was mastery of perception and narrative. Kalara materialized data patterns in the air, showing energy readings from the battle. The weapons they used weren't just advanced. They were designed specifically to counter our technology. They knew our shield frequencies, our armor composition, our tactical protocols. This wasn't preparation for a generic alien invasion. This was preparation for us specifically. How? Viridian asked, though the answer was becoming increasingly obvious. Thrakis pulled up agent reports from the past 50 years, highlighting sections that had seemed insignificant at the time. Our infiltrators reported occasional instances of humans discussing hypothetical alien invasions in their entertainment, their literature, their strategic planning sessions. We dismissed it as primitive paranoia. But they were actually wargaming against us, Korvax realized, using our own agents to observe how we gathered intelligence, then feeding us exactly what we expected to see. The depth of the deception was breathtaking. Every human who had interacted with a disguised Zephyrian agent had potentially been aware of the alien's true nature. Every conversation had been scripted. Every observed weakness had been deliberately displayed. It suggested a level of species-wide coordination that the hierarchical Zephyrian Empire couldn't fully comprehend. A new transmission arrived from Earth, this time visual as well as audio. The human who appeared on their screens was middle-aged by their standards, with graying hair and kind eyes that nevertheless held a sharp intelligence. She wore simple clothing and sat in what appeared to be an ordinary office. "Greetings, Zephyrian Empire," she said in flawless Zephyrian. "I am Ambassador Sarah Chen, speaking on behalf of the United Earth Defense Coalition. We've been expecting your call for approximately 393 years. The casual precision of that number sent chills through every observer. Humanity hadn't just known about alien observation in general. They had known exactly when the Zephyrians had discovered Earth. "You've shown remarkable patience," Viridian responded, trying to maintain some dignity in defeat. "Why reveal yourselves now?" Sarah smiled, a human expression that somehow conveyed both warmth and steel. "Because you forced our hand with the invasion. We would have preferred another century or two of observation. But your attack triggered our defensive protocols. Now that the masquerade has ended, we might as well have an honest conversation." "Observation?" Thrakis interjected. "You were observing us?" "Of course," Sarah replied. "Your empire spans 47 systems. You've conquered or absorbed 16 different species. We needed to understand if you could eventually become partners in peace or if you would always choose conquest. The invasion gave us our answer. But your current willingness to dialogue gives us hope." She gestured, and the display behind her showed a map of the galaxy that made the Zephyrian observers gasp. It wasn't just their empire marked on it. It was every spacefaring civilization, including several the Zephyrians hadn't known existed. "We've been watching all of you," Sarah continued, "learning your languages, your cultures, your strengths and weaknesses. Not for conquest, but for understanding. Humanity's goal has never been domination. We've seen what that path leads to through observing others." Kalara pulsed with a mixture of fear and fascination. "How many civilizations have you infiltrated?" "Infiltrated is a strong word," Sarah said diplomatically. "Let's say we've established cultural exchanges with most spacefaring species. Your empire was actually one of the last to discover Earth, which made you perfect for this demonstration. The calculated nature of it was staggering. Humanity had chosen the Zephyrian Empire as an example to the rest of the galaxy. Powerful enough that defeating them would be meaningful, aggressive enough that their defeat would be seen as justified, but not so vital that their loss would destabilize galactic civilization. Your technology," Korvax said, unable to hide his scientific curiosity. "The energy signatures we detected suggest manipulation of zero-point fields and controlled quantum vacuum fluctuations. Our physics says that's impossible." Sarah's smile widened slightly. "Your physics is based on incomplete observations. When you've been deliberately shown only certain aspects of reality, your models naturally have gaps. Would you like to see what you've been missing?" Without waiting for an answer, she transmitted a data packet that overwhelmed their receiving systems. When the translation protocols finally processed it, they were looking at scientific principles that revolutionized their understanding of the universe. Energy could be drawn from quantum foam. Space-time could be folded without exotic matter. Consciousness itself could interface directly with quantum fields. "This is just the introduction," Sarah noted. "Full scientific exchange will require formal diplomatic relations and mutual non-aggression treaties. You're offering to share this knowledge?" Viridian asked, hardly daring to believe it. Eventually. Humanity believes in uplift through cooperation, not conquest. But trust must be earned. And your empire has a long history of taking what it wants by force. We need to see genuine change before we can share technologies that could be weaponized. Thrakis studied the human ambassador, trying to read her true intentions through alien features. What do you want from us? Acknowledgement, Sarah said simply. Publicly acknowledge the failed invasion and commit to peaceful relations. Reform your policies toward conquered species. Join the Galactic Cooperative Alliance we're proposing. Help us build a galaxy based on mutual benefit rather than dominance hierarchies. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of crumbling empire. Everything the Zephyrians had built was based on military superiority. Without that, who were they? And if we refuse? Viridian asked, though she already knew the answer. Sarah's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes hardened. Then you'll be isolated. The hyperspace beacons your ships use for navigation will stop working in your territory. Your trade routes will find themselves redirected. Your subject species will receive mysterious transmissions about organizing for independence. You won't be invaded or destroyed. You'll simply become irrelevant while the rest of the galaxy moves forward without you. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of fact, delivered with the calm certainty of a species that had spent centuries preparing for every possible outcome. You've thought of everything, Korvax observed. We've had 400 years to plan, Sarah reminded them. Every possible response to our revelation, every potential alliance against us, every military strategy, every diplomatic maneuver, we've gamed them all out thousands of times. The path we're offering, cooperation and mutual growth, is the only one that doesn't end badly for everyone involved. She stood, signaling that the initial contact was coming to an end. You have 7 of your cycles to decide. The vessels currently in your space are there as witnesses, not threats. They'll observe your decision and relay it to the galactic community. Choose wisely. The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrian leadership to contemplate their new reality. Everything they had believed about their place in the universe had been shattered in a single night. The predators had discovered they were never predators at all, merely players in a game whose rules they hadn't even known existed. What do we do? Kalara asked into the silence. Thrakis looked at the tactical displays still showing human vessels at the edge of their systems. Each ship was a reminder that humanity could have conquered them at any time, but had chosen not to. That choice, more than any weapon, revealed the true nature of Earth's children. We adapt, Viridian said finally, her voice carrying newfound respect. We learn. And perhaps for the first time in our empire's history, we grow through something other than conquest. The golden halls of the Zephyrian military command would need to be repurposed. The age of expansion through force had ended in a single night, but perhaps something greater could be built from its ashes. Humanity had hidden their true nature for 4 centuries, but in revealing it, they had offered the galaxy something it had never truly had before, a choice between the old ways of dominance and a new path of cooperative evolution. The universe would never be the same.